Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone with my friend, Dr. Jeffrey Long. Hi, Jeffrey.
Greetings, everybody.
Oh, I'm so excited. I hope everyone knows about your amazing work, but if they don't, I want to make sure that they are introduced to your work now so they can benefit from it. You are a full-time radiation oncology physician and you're in Kentucky. And I grew up in Cincinnati, so
Yeah.
I was right across the river. And
Okay.
over 25 years ago, you founded the Near Death Experience Research Foundation, which is NDERF.org. And I want to encourage everyone that listens to this to make sure that they go to that site because it is an amazing resource for you if you're interested in near-death experience work. Your groundbreaking research is prominently featured in New York Times bestselling book Evidence of the Afterlife, The Science of Near-Death Experiences. And you've been everywhere because it was a New York Times bestselling book. So we'll want to know everything about that. And your interviews and your information have been exposed to millions of people. But I want to make sure that we learn a little bit more about your interest in this and how it can help people right now. Because as you know, people are going through so many changes and there's a lot of fear. And I think your work can really help them. So Jeffrey, let's start with okay, you're an oncologist, so you see people going through trauma basically as their life, they have a life-threatening disease. Is that what got you interested in these near-death studies?
Actually, no. My interest in near-death experience started many decades ago
Okay.
when I was in my residency training for my medical specialty, radiation oncology. So I was at the medical library. This was way before the internet. So if we wanted to read about cancer to help a patient, we went down to the library and there were these huge bound volumes of books basically that we had to look up an article. So I was going through the Journal of the American Medical Association, just flipping through, looking for the article, and completely by accident, I come across an article that had in the title near death experience. Well, I'd never heard of it before, and I said, well, you're either dead or alive. That's what I learned as a doctor. So, what's this near death experience thing? So, I read it. It was an article by Dr. Michael Sabom, and amazingly, he talked about in this article about how he had many patients who had a cardiac arrest. He was a cardiologist and had that out of body experience and saw ongoing earthly events. But what they saw while they were literally clinically dead with an absent heartbeat, when they checked it out later, pinpoint accurate down to the finest details. I was amazed because I knew that everything I'd been taught as a physician said the brain absolutely can't do this. It's impossible. So I remember thinking prophetically, first of all, why isn't there more research on this fascinating topic? Boy, little did I know then. But I also said, if this is real, if this is true, then this changes my view of the universe. There's a much bigger picture going on than what I learned in medical school and in church and everywhere else. So that got my interest going. And then about a year and a half later, I had a college friend visiting me with his wife. We had supper, and over that meal, his wife said she had a huge number of medical allergies, so severe, in fact, that she was under general anesthesia and she coded. Her heart stopped. And so we were just went on eating. And I said, well, my medical instinct is there's more to this story than she just said. So, but that isn't that the dumbest question you can ask under general anesthesia and her heart stops? What a stupid question to ask if you had a memory at that time. But the curiosity got the better of me. So I asked her, I said, well, what happened? Did you have an experience? And she said, why, yes. Went on to describe an out of body experience, saw frantic efforts at her resuscitation. It's not like Hollywood, folks. I mean, there's panic in the operating room and unexpected heart stopping. The machine, EKG machine that measures the heart electrical activity, it's flat and makes a huge racket. It's an alarm. And she went and described that vividly, how it really happens in the real world. And then she had that, went through a tunnel, met some deceased loved ones, was in the unearthly realm, and described a very vivid, detailed near-death experience, but she didn't know what that was. So I said, well, I read about that about a year and a half ago. I think you had one of these near-death experiences. So that was it. I said, if this is real, and real is defined as being consistently observed in the scientific sense. So I said, I'm going to set up the NDERF, NDERF website, nderf.org, basically, if you will, as a skeptic. Prove it to me. I mean, I make my medical decisions on evidence and reasoning. That's how I save lives. But the same type of commitment to that kind of scientific rigor was going to guide my near-death experience research. So boom, the website went up. We invited everybody in the world to go sharing their experience. And after, oh, by the way, this was 25 years ago. Like you said, that was when we barely had modems, were dial-up modems working. You old timers are all smile when you hear that one. But finally, we were able to get down my first over 20 people that shared a survey that I had on the website. And boom, immediately I saw that the unmistakable pattern consistently observed across all these near-death experiences. And I'm like, wow, this near-death experiences, this is amazing. This seems to be like a window into a different, greater type of reality of an afterlife. So that started my 25-year journey of learning more and more about near-death experience and really having the opportunity to share these amazing, both inspirational and informative findings with everybody that I get an opportunity to, including right here today. So that's my beginning.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. I have I have so many questions about all of this because after being involved and after reading hundreds of books and being involved with IONS all these years, I am just fascinated how someone can define a near-death experience. I know from your work you have over 4,000 near-death experience accounts. And I think I read somewhere that you have 9 lines of evidence that you use. Could you talk about that a little bit so people can understand how you prove that they're not just under some sort of chemical imbalance in their brain?
Oh, absolutely. Very briefly, 9 lines of evidence was presented in my New York Times best-selling book, Evidence of the Afterlife, The Science of Near-Death Experiences. So it really hit a chord worldwide with the power of these evidence. So just in brief, you start out with that out-of-body experience we talked about with my friends and Dr. Sabom's article. Is what they're observing real? In my study, it was over 98% of the time in a near-death experience. When you have that out-of-body experience, what you see and hear of ongoing earthly events while you're unconscious or bodily clinically dead was accurate with that high percentage, 98%. I found people had far more vivid senses during their near-death experience than earthly everyday life. I have actually a series of people that had severe visual impairment or were legally blind, and yet in every one of the near-death experiences in this series, their vision was either normal or more often supernormal, which was amazing. We have near-death experiences occurring in very young children. I studied age 5 and younger. Average age was 3.5 years old. These kids are practically a cultural blank slate when they have their near-death experiences. They don't understand death. They don't understand, almost certainly never heard about near-death experience. And to my amazement, the content, what occurs in these near-death experiences is stunningly similar to the content, what occurs during near-death experiences of older children and adults. Life reviews, people will often, about 20% of people having a near-death experience will be aware of part or even all of their prior life when they have a near-death experience. And very often they will become aware of events like often early in childhood when they're a toddler, which they'd long forgotten. And yet when they check it out, it's exactly happened exactly as they saw it in their near-death experience. So again, I studied over 80 of these life reviews, and once again, perfect playback is how you could conceptualize it. What they saw in their life review absolutely really happened, even if it was long forgotten. We talked briefly about near-death experiences under anesthesia. I have a series of those now, and again, not surprisingly, even though they're unconscious, and of course, heart function very carefully monitored. So these people really do code their heart stops. The content of those near-death experiences, again, remarkably the same as near-death experiences under all other circumstances. A key survey question I asked about their degree of consciousness and alertness, and boom, it's absolutely the same whether they were under anesthesia or not. Even the powerful sedatives of general anesthesia can't diminish that typically supernormal consciousness of near-death experiences. We have a number of what we call shared near-death experiences. These are where two or more people have a simultaneous life-threatening event, and amazingly, they're aware of each other in a shared near-death experience. They can communicate and interact. Some of the strongest evidence I'm aware of that when permanent irreversible death occurs, what's seen in near-death experiences may well be that initial pathway that leads people forward into their transition into that blissful afterlife. And then finally, another line of evidence we have is I asked in a survey question very directly, what do you think about the reality of your experience at the current time? 94% of people having a near-death experience said experience definitely real, out of having a choice of probably real, probably not real, or unreal. So again, having a near-death experience cures any kind of disbelief or doubt in near-death experiences. So that's just for the brevity of time here, that's just some of the stronger lines of evidence I've come up with. And there's others that all converge on the understanding that near-death experiences are, in a word, real.
That's fantastic. I know they are, but I have to say I didn't have a near death experience. I've had spiritually transformative experiences, and part of my joy in being a part of IONS and all of this research is to find an easier way to integrate that experience. And I really want to thank you and say large appreciation, at least for me and all the people like me, for the work that you do, because the more that you've documented and done the process with 4,000 near-death experiencers, the more possibility we have to integrate better. Because again, I know you knew Colonel Diane Cochran, but she was a nurse a colonel in the Army during World War II, and she was finding that they were misdiagnosing people with PTSD instead of near-death experiences, and they were prescribing them the wrong process healing modalities. And in fact, she considered that part of the high suicide rate with the people with PTSD. So this work is so valuable for so many parts of society. And it's also giving us a chance to have our healthcare providers learn about it so that it's part of their vocabulary. Have you found that there's a lot of pushback with your peers with this? Or, I mean, that must have been pretty courageous of you 25 years ago to do this.
Oh yeah, 25 years ago on the website, I was Dr. Jeff because I wanted to work anonymously.
Oh,
When I published my New York Times best-selling book, I was, wow, talk about out of the closet. I mean, the hospital I worked at literally put all the patients' televisions onto my NBC Today Show interview at the debut. So, it was kind of hard to not, hard to be anonymous. But that was 25 years ago. In this day and age, I've talked to multiple groups, including physician healthcare provider groups, and I am astonished at how open they are. I think doctors like myself really understand and respect the power of evidence. You have the statistics, you have multiple lines all showing the same thing. So when I've talked to physician groups, I am astonished at how accepting they are of this. I mean, I'm nowhere near what I was 25 years ago, where there was a lot of questioning and doubts. There's a lot of a lot more people know about near-death experiences today than ever before. I mean, this talk we're having today helps get the word out. Many other social media talks. Excellent research that has been done by a group of near-death experience researchers has really helped bring this forward too. Books. So given all that, it's a completely new situation today. In fact, in 2021, the Pew Foundation, which is a very credible research sort of polling group, in 2021, they asked people directly, do you endorse this statement that a near-death experience is an observation of the spirit leaving the physical body, which is a reasonable definition of NDE? And amazingly, 72% of Americans said yes. So that's how ingrained awareness is and acceptance of near-death experience in the modern time. And that's exciting to me. I mean, I don't have to hide anymore. I can gloriously go out and share this openly and freely. And certainly that is a very, very loving outreach that I do, both informative and inspirational to a vast number of people. So it's really been, what I do, a labor of love that I consider to be a very important part of my life at this point in time.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Well, I want to thank you again. There's so much gratitude for this resource because, as I said, when people have had these life-changing experiences, they can either write it off to that they made it up or they dreamed it. And what happens is once you have resources like what you have on your site and all your life's work, your book, you have an opportunity to really think it through and get the gift of it, right? I mean, it is a gift that having a view into the bigger picture, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you're right. I think that's one thing that's driven the public acceptance of NDE is these tremendous resources on our NDERF website. We talk about over 4,000 near-death experiences, but you can read them. They're full narratives. All the questions are there. So it's literally by far the largest publicly accessible collection of near-death experiences in the world. If you go there and go to a top link, you can go look at exceptional experiences. And I will bet if you read just 10 near-death experiences that we've pulled out as being exceptional, you may well find it to be life-changing. It's that powerful. And speaking of resources, don't forget the IANDS website, iands.org, which is just an encyclopedia of information, of groups that you can go to, NDE groups, the largest in the world. They're all over the world, literally, and with a tremendous amount of writing and resources there too. So it's really exciting to work with. I almost feel like partnering with IANDS. All of us were on the same page, same goal, getting the word out about near-death experiences and helping people to understand that it's, if you have a near-death experience in this day and age, very quickly, with all these resources available, you realize I'm not alone. And people that have near-death experiences, I mean, it's incredibly informative and enlightening and helps them to change positively to realize that their experience is not unique, that many, many other people had this experience, which helps, if you will, I don't want to say validate, but it certainly helps them to know that it is absolute, it's not brain dysfunction or a dream. This is real. It's a real spiritual experience, and it's that powerfully important. And that's one of the real huge public things that we do both on NDERF and IANDS to help people understand that very important concept.
I agree totally. I also find that people that have done this research, study, read books, talked and listened to these type of interviews, they're transformed. It's as though anyone that had a spiritually transformative experience, no matter what level it is their frequency, their communication, their heart really is what transforms everyone. And I'm sure you've been affected by that as well, right?
Oh, completely. I'm very aware that I adopt a lot of the typical changes we see in near-death experiencers called after effects. No doubt in 25 years, I've incorporated that heavily into my life. It's helped me professionally as a doctor. I can help my patients fight cancer with more courage, more compassion than I ever could before. I can go the extra mile, work harder. I know that I can be a better doctor, both in terms of my technical ability as a doctor and also just in my human interaction with my patients with cancer at a level that I simply couldn't do before. It's radically affected my interpersonal relationships. I've become far more loving, compassionate, understanding, accepting than I ever was over 25 years ago. So it has affected me very, very deeply. And again, I have not had a near-death experience. So my transformation, if you will, from my awareness of near-death experience is really a message of hope to basically everyone that hasn't had a near-death experience. I mean, it's just like what you were saying. My gosh, read them. Ideally, talk to someone who's had a near-death experience, listen to the podcast, listen to great talks like this, and you're going to get it. I mean, I think it's almost like when you hear about near-death experience, you're taking that little piece of heaven right into yourself and then manifesting it out for the rest of your life. It really is transformative in a very powerful and positive way.
Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you. And I think the other part of this, one of the IONS conferences a couple years ago, the subtitle was "You Do Not Die." And I think this is a big part of this opportunity, is to read research, see that there is a continuation after this reality, and not be so frightened of it. I mean, I guess people say the act of dying isn't fun, but once you get to the other side, it's great.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
while we're talking about the changes after near-death experience, I would point out last year I published the largest study of what we call the after effects, the typical changes we see after near-death experiences, with 834 near-death experiencers, and we compared that to 42 people that had a life-threatening event but no NDE. And in comparison to the group, people that had a near-death experience were just off the chart, more likely to be less fearful of death, more likely to believe there was an afterlife, more likely to believe in God, had changed radically in terms of an increased level of compassion, increased awareness of the meaning and purpose of earthly life. So, on and on, the same kind of things known in the near-death experience community, but again, vividly demonstrated in the largest study of these type of after effects ever published.
Thank you. I should have remembered to ask you about that. Thank you. I am also still curious a little bit about cultural programming that we all have. Do you see, I know in the 4,000 cases that you've covered, and I'm sure you know of even more that haven't gone through your rigorous training. What do you feel? Is there a cultural difference between different, because you're reaching international audience with your website and with all your work. Is there any cultural difference?
Okay. Wow, what a great question. In less than a week, I'll be presenting at this year's IONS conference, the largest cross-cultural study of near-death experiences that's ever been presented. So as part of that, I'll steal the thunder of my presentation, but what the heck. It's going to be 91 non-Western near-death experiencers. And amazingly, we had 51 of them complete the survey in English, even though they're in non-Western countries and non-Western cultures. So for the first time in history, we're able to compare head-to-head non-Western near-death experiencers with Western near-death experiencers, filling out the same survey and filling a very detailed survey. And the upshot of what I'm going to be presenting at the IONS conference is that there's basically no significant difference in the content, what happens during a near-death experience, whether it's non-Western or from a Western country. And previously, there was some sort of scholarly consensus that core elements of these experiences, non-Western and Western, were identical. Well, that's bunk. It's way more than that. I mean, it's basically everything that happens in a near-death experience that those that know NDEs well are so familiar with are basically occurring in both groups of near-death experiencers and in the same proportion. Above and beyond that, the spiritual content, we ask directly these questions about, increased belief in an afterlife, decreased belief in death. Did you, during your experience, become aware of anything regarding love, of anything regarding God or a supreme spiritual being? Did you learn during your NDE anything about the meaning and purpose of life? No statistical difference between non-Western near-death experiencers and Western near-death experiencers. So it's way beyond just a core. It's one experience that seems to be shared globally throughout the world. Same thing with after effects. Basically identical, same type of substantial changes occurring no matter where on Earth you have the experience. So this is a groundbreaking, important study. It shows it makes no difference where on the globe you had a near-death experience, whether you're, say, a Muslim in Egypt or a Hindu in India or a Christian in the United States or someone with no belief at all. If you have a near-death experience, the content will be the same. And importantly, this is a real key for a possibility of global understanding of each other. We all have a shared experience. We all can go through that anywhere in the world we are. So if we could globally understand that, have a dialogue around near-death experiences and that shared spiritual experience we have, it could literally change the world and help bring about communication and hopefully foster some peace and understanding globally, which we so much need now. So stay tuned. That's coming up for my talk in just a few days.
Wonderful. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But I still wanted to talk a little bit about the near-death experiences and some of your research, because some of the people have come back with a glimpse of the future. And that's always fascinating as well. It's not just their future, where they may have gotten their soul mission or gotten some indication that, no, you have to go back, you're not done, you have children coming, or all of that. You have responsibilities that won't happen if you don't go back. What have you done any research on these people that have future indications?
Yes.
Okay.
Another great question. We very directly asked in our survey, it's a NDE scale or research question, did scenes from the future come to you? So we allow a narrative response. So I've literally been able to look at hundreds of narrative responses to people that answered yes to that question in our survey. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. And I kept studying that. Well, is there anything consistently? As I said earlier, it's a basic tenet of science that what real is consistently observed. And so going over literally hundreds of these narratives, I'm impressed that people may have some awareness of their personal future. They may have some awareness of some things that may happen globally in the very near future. But as far as having something many, many years in the future, I'm not really seeing that kind of consistency. And I think that's probably looked at positively indicates that it really is up to us living our earthly life now. We really have an impact in shaping the future, not only our own, but globally. So I don't think from my rather extensive research on those types of people that feel they could see in the future, I don't really think the future's fixed. I think that is something that we are co-creating, and that we will, what we do, what we think, how we love each other can be impactful on future events far more than we thought. Now, having said that, there's some sort of intriguing aspects of that still suggest there is an awareness of future events that do come out. One of the common, well, I mean, common, it's uncommon, but we have a good series of people that had their near-death experience and became aware of how many children they'd have in the future, and often what gender. So every single time we have someone become aware of that during their near-death experience, that absolutely comes true. They ultimately end up with that many children and that gender. So there does seem to be at least some interplay into that. I don't know that any near-death experiencer will know what the future is going to happen to someone else across the globe or even in their same city. But as far as their personal future, what's important to them, if you will, their soul path, there does seem to be some insights, important insights about some especially critical aspect of their future. So that's pretty much my research on future awareness in near-death experiences.
Perfect. Thank you. Would you say that there is a lot of evidence that people see their relatives, or they see somebody they know when they have the near-death experience, that they're almost like their welcoming committee?
Yes. There's a couple of different classes of beings, if you will, that helps conceptualize this. There's beings that are not, well, about 15% see deceased relatives. Relatives are far more common than other people, acquaintances, friends. It's about, in two large studies, my own and another one done by Dr. Kelly, found it was at least 80% of the time that they encountered beings they knew in their earthly life, they were deceased loved ones. And these are joyous reunions. There's communication, sharing, and they're just beautiful experiences. And by the way, for you animal lovers out there, deceased pets are often commonly described in near-death experiences. Deceased beloved pets, boom, there they are in the afterlife, just like the deceased humans. Picture perfect health, joyous interaction. And those are really heartwarming experiences when people describe that. The other types of beings they encounter are, if you will, spiritual beings or other people. They don't know them from their earthly life. Interestingly, it's not unusual. They'll say, wow, they're familiar. I know them, but not from my earthly life. Well, that's probably they're familiar with them from their existence in the afterlife realm, probably before they incarnated on Earth. But we see that fairly regularly. But other beings are simply there. They're often loving, sharing, guiding. We do see spiritual, religious figures with some regularity. Jesus is in about 5% of NDEs, God in about maybe 8%. So by the time you have 4,000 near-death experiences, we've got a pretty large collection of these types of experiences too. So those are some of the major beings that are described in near-death experiences. Again, take-home message, joyous, loving interactions, very positive, very affirming. Critically, even if people expected by some of these, especially spiritual beings or deceased loved ones, there's essentially never described as a judgment in these near-death experiences. So even though they may have done some things in their life that they're not proud of, that doesn't seem to be a situation where they're judged externally during their near-death experience. And so, that's not any encountering beings, even very powerful spiritual beings, is absolutely nothing to be afraid of.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
My next question is about the interview process that you have when you do this research. In my experience of being around so many beautiful near-death experiencers, their articulation and their use of the information that they got during the time increases over time. I'll use Peter Panagore as an example. He had his near-death experience at 20, then he has another one at 60 something, and he spent his whole life studying mystical Christianity and not just Christianity, but mysticism in order to be able to articulate it. Are you finding that you have a need to re-interview people after they've had a chance to integrate more of the information? Because it would seem, at least the people I know, I'm watching them evolve almost as they get a new understanding. Oh, that was like Vinnie Tolman, his grandfather Drake was in his experience, and he didn't know that until later. But while he was in it, he didn't know who Drake was.
Sure. Yeah, great question. Again, there's a lot of scholarly study all finding consistently that these after effects, the changes in values and beliefs that people that have a near-death experience have, continue to develop for years, literally, just like you said there, for the rest of a lifetime. So that is, yet another line of evidence for the reality of these experiences. You don't make huge life changes to a single life event unless you are absolutely certain that this is real and this is critical and this is important for you to learn, live by, and grow from for the rest of your life. And that's true of near-death experiencers. So we see this quite a bit. And I think, again, it just shows the power of the near-death experiences. People keep learning from them, keep growing from them. You mentioned the possibility of re-interviewing some of the people that have shared with our NDERF.org website. I wish I could do that. We do have a number of people sometimes that do share, and then many, many years later will say, wow, I have new insights. This is different. Could you please post it with my experience? So, yeah, we run into that quite a bit. Um, at least up until the last time I crunched the numbers, people did share their experience with the NDERF website an average of about 15 years after the experience. So they're pretty far down the road to understanding it, integrating, and it's not like it happened 3 months ago, 6 months ago, where there's still going to be that struggle, not only to get over what nearly killed them, but also to learn from an experience that is unearthly beyond anything that they knew in their earthly life, and yet they recognize as powerful. So I think that's helped people to, when they share with our NDERF website, they've done a huge amount of integration, not complete. They'll still continue to grow for the rest of their life. But, it's certainly helped us to see some people that are far enough along the path that I think we can learn a lot from their wisdom and from how they've grown from their experience that they share with the world on our website.
Well, I think it's amazing that so many people do not share for almost 20 years. Sometimes you'll hear people say, I didn't tell anyone for 40 years for fear
Yeah.
they would put me on medication or lock me up. So what I'm so thrilled of the work that you're doing, because you're making this concept usable for so many people, and it'll be a benefit to our whole civilization. It really will.
Absolutely. And just to take your concept there and run with it, in our survey, we asked directly, have you shared your experience with anyone else? So interestingly, we have about 8% of people that had a near-death experience that never told anybody. And you can see that the after effects, their changes are just not as pronounced as other people that have had that opportunity, that have felt open about sharing it with other people. That helps them to seem to grow from their experience at sharing it. And that 8% that have never shared with another person, it seems to be somewhat limiting. The good news is I fully expect as time goes on, that 8% is going to drop and drop and drop as more people throughout the country, worldwide, understand near-death experiences, that it's a real and powerful experience, and are open and willing to share it with others.
So thank you. I want to also put a shout out to Jody, your wife, because this process that you both work on this website together, and the devotion that you both have had to helping as many people wake up to their possibilities, their divinity. I just want to thank both of you, and probably get 2 extra points there on that one.
No, that's really good. Actually, that's Jody's role is absolutely critical. The website is so huge, and we have so many experiences arriving. Jody is an attorney, and she's literally sort of retired and stepped down so she could devote close to full-time work on the NDERF website. And I literally couldn't do that today with the complexity of web development and posting, and with all the things she's done. By the way, I'll be presenting this non-Western near-death experience study, and also have over 200 near-death experiences shared in non-English languages I'll be talking about briefly. Jody is 100% behind that. She worked with human volunteers to have sections of our NDERF website published in over 30 different languages. So that's why we're able to do the largest cross-cultural study of NDE that's ever been possible before. So Jody is just amazing with her diligence and focus on all this.
Yeah, and you can tell she gets it too. I mean, both of you bit by the same bug, and
oh yeah, I mean it's I don't know how I honestly don't know how anybody could walk a mile in our shoes and see just literally it's about every day, every other day we get a new near-death experience, and we all reviewed it. We review all of them, in-depth things. I mean, the evidence to us is just overwhelming for their reality, because we see this over and over and over again. And I don't know how anyone could walk a mile in our shoes and not deeply understand at every fiber of their being how important near-death experiences are, how real, and how vital it is to share them.
And this is our future reality. I mean, the reality that we've been on, which is based in conflict and is over. And
Mhm.
most people are going, how are we going to get to that next supposed 1,000 years of peace? This is how. Because when you realize the oneness aspect is not just a concept, it's real, then the opportunity for us all to live as pieces and see the divinity, that namaste, in each other is really amazing. I want to show the website real quick, Jeffrey. Here we go, just so that people, and if you could share, how do they contribute to this? So
there's share your NDE link at the top. If you go there, and
okay.
my hat's off to everybody that does that. That is like an over 80 question survey, which is just whopping. I mean, it takes people an amazing amount of time to, I mean, geez, you goes on and on. So I am extremely grateful to the thousands of people that have taken a huge amount of their time out to share their near-death experience, a narrative, and then huge number of questions so that we can all learn collectively from these near-death experience accounts. So it's really an amazing comment on the dedication of people that have a near-death experience, their willingness to take that kind of time and effort and share it with the world because they really care and they really want people to understand from their experience that information, that inspiration is exactly like you were saying, that we all, each and every one of us, is going to have an afterlife, a beautiful, wonderful, blissful afterlife beyond anything we could imagine on earth, and that's the destiny of each and every one of us on earth today.
And for people that aren't sure about their experience, for instance, they were rushed to the hospital, they were resuscitated, and glimpses of it are starting to come through. They can find so much wonderful information and resources. Look at this resource list here that could help you, guide you to maybe activating the memory, or you'll get glimpses of it. Someone will say something or you'll read something and you go, oh yeah, that's what it was. But you maybe couldn't articulate it before, right, Jeffrey?
Oh, absolutely. That's such a critical point. Near-death experiences are often described as ineffable, meaning difficult to describe in words. And, no doubt why that's true. I mean, here you're with an experience that is often described as unearthly, unlike prior experience that you ever had in your life. Consciousness is accelerated. In a near-death experience, time is almost always described as radically different or non-existent. Communication is, the best English word is telepathic, with an instantaneous sharing of thought concepts and the whole context without any possibility of ambiguity. So it's a completely radically different experience from what they knew. So no surprise people have trouble finding the words or the ability to even conceptualize something that was so unearthly. And so I think reading all these experiences really does help people to understand, first of all, certainly they're not alone. I mean, thousands, probably around the world, millions of people have walked a mile in their shoes, having an amazing NDE experience, difficulty, conceptualizing, thinking about it, describing it. And so all of this helps the near-death experiencers to know beyond a shadow of a doubt you're not alone, and to help by looking at other people's experiences and how they thought about it and how they've grown. So I think can certainly, in a very powerful way, help people that's new with their near-death experience to process it, understand it, and then ultimately grow and become, enrich their life as a result of that gift of an experience.
Yes, it validates so much of what you think, what you've experienced, and helps you integrate. And I really see that as one of the huge gifts, is the integration part. When I had my spiritually transformative experience, I had no help, and it was 21 years ago, and I'm still integrating it. And I was in an airport the next day looking like, where did I land? And
Yeah.
Are these people real? I'm getting going on an airplane, and I had no way to integrate it until I did. So that's what I really am hoping for people that are starting to wake up. They may be having Kundalini experiences. They may have just remembered that they had a near death experience, and to not feel bad that only pieces of the puzzle come in and drip into the whole picture. So the puzzle may have lots of holes in it, but to know that by being in the field of the others that have had a similar experience, that you may be able to fill those puzzle pieces.
Yeah, and you raise a really important point there. You had a spiritually transformative experience. We abbreviated STE.
Uh,
On the NDERF website, you will find scores and scores, I think we're over 100, spiritually transformative experiences posted. So again, even though it's not a near-death experience, mercifully you didn't have to just
right.
about die. You can still see these powerful transformative experiences, often content strikingly similar to near-death experiences. In fact, from my research, I'm quite convinced the big umbrella, the big picture are the spiritual experiences. They are not of this earth. They are interaction with that greater, if you will, afterlife realm, that greater reality. And under that are the spiritually transformative experiences, near-death experiences, a lot of NDE-like experiences, and many, many other experiences that are all under that most important label. They are spiritual and they are real.
And they are real. That's the gist of it. Um,
Mhm.
so what is the most unusual experience that you know about or that fascinated you out of 4,000?
Well, yeah, that's always, first of all, I love all of them. No two near-death experiences are the same, but okay, heck, I'll pick Vicky. Vicky was born totally blind. To her, vision was unknown and unknowable. I tried explaining vision to Vicky in terms of the remaining four bodily senses. No way, you can't do that. So, as I'm interviewing Vicky, she described how she had well, she was a professional singer and was involved in a very bad car wreck. And just to answer the unspoken question, no, she wasn't driving. She was a professional singer, and she was singing at a bar. And then, unfortunately, an inebriated patron tried to get her home, and bam, they had a bad car wreck. First time she saw her body, she had that out of body experience over her body. Body's in a gurney. She then went through a tunnel, met deceased loved ones, beautiful unearthly realm, and a very typical but detailed near-death experience. So as Vicky's going along here, she described how the vision in her near-death experience, I mean, obviously it wasn't her physical eyes, it's the spiritual vision that near-death experiencers have. But she said that she could simultaneously be aware of what was going on in her near-death experience in front of her, behind her, right, left, up, down, technically spherical vision, even though 360-degree vision is often used. So that was, and we hear that from many, many other near-death experiencers, that concept of spherical vision during their near-death experience. So with Vicky, I said, well, Vicky, everyone living their earthly life here that has vision, it's confined to the location of our two eyes, located in her head, literally the skull socket, and it's like a pie-shaped visual field. We can't see like you saw. And Vicky literally laughed at me and said, "No, that's not true. That's not vision. Vision. Why would you be so constrained? You should be able to see everything." And so she still didn't quite grasp why we are so limited with our vision when she had that remarkably unlimited vision in her near-death experience. So I thought that was a hoot. So you asked, there it is. That's a memorable,
Oh, that
very
is
memorable near-death experience.
well, and just the articulation. You can't use a lot of the material information that you're used to communicating with someone who's blind too. So that's
Yeah.
why. Okay, so you just you gave us a peek a little bit of what you're doing at Ions, and we'll show that website in just a few minutes. But I wanted to ask, what's the next project that you're excited to work on?
Great question again. Boy, you're really nailing it here. So here's what I got. I'm doing a project that is so huge, I'm actually getting a research assistant because this is going to be enormous. Many people think that the most evidential part of near-death experiences be speaking the reality. I think all that happens in a near-death experience is evidential of reality. But if you had to ask sort of the public, they would say it's that part of the out-of-body experience, often early in the near-death experience, where you are aware of seeing and hearing ongoing earthly events. And then they check it out later and find that what they saw or heard was accurate down to the finest details. It's technically called veridical perception, but given that that is widely looked at as being one of the strongest lines of evidence for the reality of NDE, I thought, heck, we've got literally out of our fourth, it happens in about 45% of NDEs describe ongoing earthly events early on. The other 55%, boom, they're in an unearthly realm immediately. So we literally have thousands of near-death experiences with those out-of-body observations. So I've got a research assistant looking at the veridical perception, that out-of-body observation, to learn more about it and to try to see, is it real? Are we sure there wasn't any false information seen? Are we sure it was valid? How many people checked it out? What did you find? What were the results? So this is going to likely be what I present at next year's IANS conference, but it's going to be, I don't think we can get thousands, but we will at a minimum get many, many hundreds of these experiences that are posted on NDERF, but analyzed in a depth that no one's ever been able to do before. So as a result, and then we can correlate that with other things that occurred during the near-death experience from the survey they fill out. So this is real exciting to look very, very deeply at that very important line of evidence for the reality of near-death experiences. So that's really exciting. We'll let the findings speak for themselves, but if anybody familiar with the near-death experience research or talking to NDErs or having read a lot about that understands that what people see in that out-of-body state is almost invariably accurate to the finest detail. And in fact, it's accurate even if these out-of-body observations are geographically far from the physical body. I mean, like miles away. If they come back and check out later what they saw, almost invariably accurate to the finest details. So this is powerful, exceptionally powerful evidence that near-death experiences cannot be due to physical brain function. It largely would wreck the materialist viewpoint that near-death experiences are solely a function of physical brain function, which is bunk. And this would be another nail in the coffin of this erroneous materialist view about near-death experiences being the brain. It transcends physical brain function, as every line of evidence we've discussed today all converges on. And this will be another important study looking at that too.
Oh, I hope you write another book. Well, one needs to know there's so much more than what we can see with our five senses, or six senses, some of us.
Yeah. So
and so
it's tough being a full-time doctor. I'm gonna back off. I need to they keep me fairly busy Monday through Friday, but there's going to come a time that I slow down. I'll probably work part-time or something, but then watch out, folks. Once I start having half my time devoted to doing this research, we're going to crank it out, and this would all make an excellent book when we publish my research and a lot of the other excellent research that so many other people are doing and carry forward. This would be yet another powerful line of evidence about the reality of I would consider it compelling or conclusive, if you will, that near-death experiences are absolutely, as people that have NDEs almost uniformly believe, and those are real, bona fide spiritual experiences with consciousness apart from their earthly, everyday physical body.
Okay, I have one more. It's not a trick question, but why do some people have multiple NDEs?
Yeah, that's interesting. We have quite a few people that have that. I wish there was a good explanation for that. I don't have, I can't, I haven't really studied our fairly large number of multiple NDEs to the point that I can really answer that conclusively. So just literally shooting from the hip here, first of all, good gosh, I mean, how many life-threatening events do you have in a life? So these are people that for whatever reason seem to be prone to life-threatening events much more than the general public. So that's the foundation. When they have multiple near-death experiences, the content may either seem to be like a continuation of the last NDE with more detail moving forward, or completely unrelated. I mean, it comes in both flavors, and there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. But that would be here we go, another research topic for when I stop working full time would be to find out if we can understand from demographic variables, any variables in any way that they shared in that huge number of survey questions. Why do some people have these multiple NDEs and yet, the majority of people obviously don't have any NDEs. So stay tuned. If I do that research, you can say, wow, I put that bug in his ear. So
Oh,
way to go.
well, Sean Lether is the one who put it in my ear. He said, I think he said 3, and he said, I just didn't learn on my first 2. So,
And that's, I mean, you see that, and that's the one where they sort of have a about half gestalting, seem to have a further continuation of their near-death experience. Absolutely. I mean, that's among that population, it's like they have more to learn. They need to know. Maybe they weren't ready in their life at the time of their first near-death experience. Maybe they had to integrate, learn from that first one before they were open to, aware, ready for that next step in their understanding and awareness. So again, that's a hypothesis, but really interesting group of people that have 2 or even more near-death experience.
Well, a lot of near-death experiencers describe a longing to go back to that other location that's so full of love, and there isn't any judgment, and their loved ones, they just felt overwhelmed with the beauty and the love that exists there. And so that may be part of the difficulty in having multiples. Although I still think spiritually transformative experiences are the way to go. So you don't have to do that to your.
You don't have to die. I will endorse that right there. So there's probably more people around the world that have had these spiritually transformative experiences even than NDEs. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's definitely something I need to look further on other than just collect them. I need to look at them in a scholarly way and compare them to near-death experiences. But I'll tell you, so you could read a spiritually transformative experience and not know that it's not an NDE based on the remarkably similar content of these 2 types of experiences. So again, a very vivid, further, very important spiritual experience that I need to learn more about and in doing so, share with the world.
Yes, that's wonderful. So I want to thank you for this wonderful experience. I'm going to show the ions. Maybe I'm not. Hold on a second. Got to get it back. Is here. Okay. So I wanted to show the ions website so that people that may not be able to go to see you and Jody in person at IONS. I want them to know what you're doing there, but I also want people to know that this is available live streaming. And not only do you get the live streaming, the way the event is there's so many things going on at the same time, you can't bilocate anyway. So you want to get the recordings. And if you go in person, you get the recordings, or if you do the live streaming, you get the recordings. And it'd be much better for your well-being to watch this than Netflix for the next couple of months, right, John? Right?
Totally. Yeah, you got there's so many great talks here. I'm glad you brought that up, Kathy. I mean, there's going to be scores of people giving some outstanding talks. I mean, this is really, oh, by the way, there are now over 800 people have registered. So this is really a huge event, and I would sure encourage everybody, even after the meeting, you can pay for and download and view these talks. And I don't know if you can download them, you can certainly, stream them. And you can see for yourself these incredibly powerful, positive, inspirational talks that so many people have been sharing. This is a Sentinel IONS conference. It's the 50th year anniversary of near-death experience research. So this is going to be a major event. You won't want to miss it. If you can't come in person, you sure do want to check out the talks online later.
And I want to share that I find as a sensitive that the recordings and the live stream, as well as the in-person, carries a frequency of love in it that really is transformative. So I want to encourage you, if you're interested in this at all, that it's very little expense. I think it's $175. It's less than $200 to get the online. The in-person isn't very expensive either. And membership to IONS is $40 a year. It's so reasonable that I just want to encourage people. I found my soul family with all these people. I just love every single person. And you can see the amount of dedication that the volunteers have done and the staff. There's very little staff in IONS. A lot of this is done by volunteers, groups and groups and groups of us. So, this is the keynote speakers are Carolyn Miss, Bruce Grayson, who's also a researcher, Diane Hennessy Powell, who did the telepathy tapes. And I love Mark Anthony, who's a psychic lawyer, explorer, and he wrote the Afterlife Frequency. So not only do you have Dr. Raymond Moody, if you go in person, you can watch his documentary that was just made about him and other documentaries. But you also, so here's the conference. See, the conference cost is hardly anything. It's in Chicago. The hotel is reasonably priced. And then you can get also there's all the events that are happening, and there's lunch with speakers. And yours is already sold out, so they can't be with you and Jody, I guess, but there you guys are.
Oh, there we go. Look at the two of us. What a great picture. Yep, that's us.
Yeah. And then there's all these workshops. So, I mean, this is really once a year. This is something that I just can't recommend enough. As far as if you're working on your spiritual growth and the way to find more balance and love as we're going through these changing times, this is a gift, right?
Oh, absolutely. I can't say enough good things about how awesome all these events are going to be. I think if you go to this IONS conference or any future ones and really focus on what talks you need to hear, experiences you have to help you grow spiritually. I mean, there's just an amazing number of resources. I don't know how you could come here and not be deeply touched, spiritually developed, and really help incorporate the wisdom that's throughout all this conference to help improve your life. Yeah, absolutely.
And the conference also includes a healing venue, a bookstore, exhibitors that sell pertinent information or products and services. So it really is an event that I want to encourage anyone that has a little bit of curiosity to sign up, at least for the live stream, if not in person. And if you're in the Chicago area, don't miss it. Even if you can only go for one day, you will be amazed. When you walk into the event, you will feel the energy. If you're sensitive, you will feel like you're walking in a vortex in Sedona.
Oh, very true. I mean, it could literally change your life. I can't say enough good things about this. I hope everybody has a chance to come down to this IONS conference or any future one.
Yes.
They're every year.
And I saw on your website that you're going to be speaking at Omega in October with Anita Morjani and others. And so please watch what Dr. Jeffrey's doing. As he said, he's still working full time. So he and his wife Jody are doing a fantastic job with the website. If you are missing something if you don't go to the resources. You're really missing an opportunity to gain a bigger perspective of your life, right?
Well, absolutely. And thanks for those kind words. I'd point out on our NDERF website, if you go there, you'll say, wait a minute, it's free, every single thing, all those resources you showed earlier, absolutely free. We're not really soliciting donations. We are simply lovingly taking the experiences shared with us in love by people that had near-death experiences and related experiences and sharing it back freely to the world. I mean, it's literally a beautiful thing that Jody and I do. We love doing it, and it's all free for anybody that wants to see it, and in over 31 different languages. So
It's amazing.
yeah, it's an amazing resource. And once again, if you want information or inspiration about near-death experiences, check out that free resource.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for what you will do next. Not
Oh,
just what
thank you.
you've already done. It's just such an inspiration. Bless you and bless this work. It's really important for our evolution.
I really appreciate that fantastic talk we had today. Thanks for your kind words. And, looking forward to seeing you in this upcoming conference and in
Yes.
future conferences.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.